Thank you all for being here today. Truly not an easy day for our San Diego Jewish community and the San Diego community at large. My name is Barbara Ostroff. I am the daughter of Holocaust survivors Max and Lily Bialer of blessed memory. And I am also Barbara Ostroff, member of Chabad of Poway, and friend of Lori Kay, Zichron Livracha, who was murdered yesterday because she happened to be in shul, saying Yizkor for the first time in her life for her recently departed beloved mother. Yesterday, right here, not in our backyard, but in our home, my shul and your shul, as Chabad is open to everyone. A dark and senseless act of hatred by a twisted creature in our midst. I stand before you, you, the survivors of the Holocaust, you, my community, prepared to say never again, but it happened again. We are shaken to the core, but we must stand strong, as we are here all together right now. And we must continue to act, to be hopeful, and to be upstanders, for never again, as Rabbi Goldstein said yesterday after his surgery, everyone needs to be a hero. Everyone needs to stand up in the face of terror. We need to do this to honor the memory of innocent souls who perished in the Shoah, and an innocent soul from our community who perished yesterday, many years after the Shoah, for one reason, and one reason only, because she was Jewish. May the memory of the victims of hatred and blatant anti-Semitism be for blessings. And also we pray for the speedy recovery and refuah shalema of Rabbi Yisroel Goldstein of Chabad of Poway, and 9-year-old Noya Dahan and her brave uncle, Alon Peretz, who saved his nieces and nephews, Nora, and her siblings. Nora and Alon are from Sderot, and as we know, Sderot borders Gaza. How can it be that they survived the rockets from Gaza only to come to San Diego and be terrorized in their shul by an anti-Semite? After surgery yesterday, Rabbi Goldstein somehow mustered the strength to speak to NBC News and said, "Terror will not win. As Americans, we cannot cower." I will move on to speak a bit about the program. We always mention with gratitude our dignitaries who are here today. Today we include members of the office of Councilman Scott Sherman, members of the office of Councilwoman Jen Campbell, and we have with us Congressman Scott Peters. Thank you all for being here and for your support. Let us also acknowledge our police and first responders who are outside protecting us. God bless America. Our program today cannot fail to inspire our very own locally grown Heather Mayo, who I'm proud to say is a good friend of mine, created a virtual reality holographic means of interacting with Holocaust survivors so their stories live on forever. And this is beyond words. You will witness this here today, and we are so proud to have Heather with us and showcase how through her genius, we are assured to never forget and always remember. Also, An historic moment will be witnessed before you as we honor and bestow a medal to a righteous among the nations right here in San Diego, here with us today. We are blessed to have this happen, and we are so reminded of the need to be an upstander and never a bystander. For the past few years, our survivors, who we're blessed to have been given a candle to hold up as a symbol of the light they bring into the world and the hope and strength they give us. This year, however, we all have lights. Survivors, please hold up your candles. We cherish your presence, the lessons you give us, and we pray till 120, may you continue to hold up your lights. Children of survivors, second generation, please hold up your lights. Grandchildren of survivors, third generation, please hold up your lights. Great-grandchildren of survivors, fourth generation, please hold up your lights. Now, everyone else, please hold up your lights. Let's all raise them up high. Please repeat after me in saying, "We will never forget." Again, we will never forget. Thank you. I will leave you now with the words of the late Rebbe, the Chabad Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Behamshich habinyan tenochmo. With the continuity of growth, you will find comfort. And we will find comfort as one family, as one people. Am echad, mishpacha echad. Thank you. Thank you for the applause. However, I'm going to ask from here on out if we can refrain from applause because it is a memorial service and the committee has asked me to share that with you to please refrain, although we appreciate what you're trying to say. I now present to you the head of Chabad of San Diego, Rabbi Fradkin.
I thought it was only appropriate to come here today to represent Chabad and let the community know how we really appreciate the kindness, the love, the warmth that we've seen from everyone. But after hearing Barbara speak, I think you had a much better Chabad representative than myself being here. So thank you, Barbara. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, as was quoted, would always say, survivors. A bissel Yiddish, I can speak for those survivors that understand. We all know about the Lamed Vov Tzadikim. There are 36 Tzadikim that God sends into every generation because he knew that there wouldn't be that many righteous people, so spread them around. Let every generation have some. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that in the past generation, we had 6 million Tzadikim. Every single survivor is a Tzadik and a Tzaddikus. And why are they? Because they went away or they suffered for one reason, because they were Jewish. And you know what? As survivors, we have to thank you and appreciate you. Here's a young lady, Barbara Ostroff. These are the people that they tried to destroy, the offspring. What type of an offspring have you survivors created? People that care, people that cherish, people that love, people that make a community a better community. And trying to destroy these people was trying to destroy not the Jewish nation, but trying to destroy goodness and kindness and intellect and creating a society and a world that's, just think of the world what it would be today without the Jewish people. Impossible to even think. From a local Qualcomm over here with cell phones, etc., to so many other things that the world has today, the world would be so different. So I just would like to say that we are humbled by you, because if you could survive the gunshots that you saw not one person killed, but you saw so many people killed. And I know my wife is a second generation as well. My father-in-law of blessed memory was a very special man. He never told the stories until later on in his life, but he told the stories how he would sleep on dead bodies. And he still came out a believer. He still came out a very, very strong believer. And these people that went through and suffered the way that you did, our hats go off to you, our hearts go with you, and we know that there's a future. We know that the Jewish nation will survive. So I hope, and I don't know, again, Chabadniks are very, pardon the expression, but crazy people. We come to communities and we believe that we can change the world. You can all of a sudden pop up in 1970s with the college kids and bring more Yiddishkeit to a community. Somehow or other, this mishigas, this craziness, because all of us have that neshama and soul, it sparks and it happens, regardless of what is there. So somehow or other, we would love to see the sense of education, taking these young, gullible children, a 19-year-old young man who comes into a synagogue and tries to destroy goodness. Who are the people that are there? People of goodness and kindness and care and love. And if he ever had a problem, these would be the people that would be there to help him. But because of the spread, they're going against the wrong people. These people who go and are so gullible, if we possibly educate them to say, hey, you're going after the good ones. Don't go, and by the way, we just had the holiday of Pesach, and this was again Vihishi. In every generation they're there to take, not like your generation, but in every generation they're evil people. We take by the Seder, we take our Kiddush cup, and we take the 10 makas, the 10 plagues, and we all remember from the Haim that one drop goes out for every one of the plagues. Why do we spill out a drop for every one of the plagues from our wine, from the 4 cups? To say, Hashem, we're thankful that you saved us. You didn't have to send the 10 plagues to these goyim, to these people that want to destroy us. We don't want to destroy other people. We want goodness and we want kindness. And by the way, we see that goodness and kindness all around us. So again, you have to be strong, Holocaust survivors. Be strong, be healthy, as Barbara said, bis 120 healthy and happy years, because we need you as an example to show what goodness and kindness and survival and menschlichkeit and the beauty of the Jewish nation. You are the beauty of our Jewish nation. Thank you for being here. And again, bis Ibra Yor, as they say, till next year, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, may we all be together. I'd like to also mention tomorrow that Lori Kay, her funeral is going to be tomorrow at 2 o'clock at Chabad of Poway, and everyone's encouraged if they like to come. And also at 4 o'clock, it'll be at the El Camino Cemetery. And there'll be many other programs. We're encouraging everyone to go to Shul the Shabbos. Show these people we're not afraid of Shul. We're going to Shul. We're going to be stronger and better. Also, Rabbi Goldstein lost a finger. And we're asked, the finger is part of a hand that does so many good things. Let us all do good things. If you're a man and you have a finger, put on the tefillin on it. If you're a woman, light the Shabbos candles. But go out in the world. Let's use our hands to help more and more people in any way we can. Be healthy and be well. A good gewensch to you. Good year to all of you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Hello, my name is Jack Morgenstern. I'm a second generation. I'm the son of a Holocaust survivors, Mike and Gussie Zach's blessed memory. And today I have with me the honor of having my grandkids with me to present the colors. So can everybody please stand up?
Just a moment. I'm sorry, folks. We've had some last-minute changes in our program, and if you could just take your seats for one more second.
Okay.
Tammy, would you mind joining us up here for a second? I'm sorry, Jack.
No problem.
Hi, I'm Tammy Gillies. I'm the regional director for the ADL in San Diego. At ADL, we've been fighting hate for over 100 years. We have a lot of fighting still to do. We hope you'll help us with that. Yesterday morning, my phone rang. It was Sheriff Gore. My heart sank. But looking at all of you today, looking out at this crowd, looking at the survivors that we're honoring, my heart is full because of our community. I have the honor today of introducing to you my boss, the CEO of ADL. He's come in, he was in LA with his family for Pesach, and he insisted on coming down to be with us today. So please welcome Jonathan Greenblatt.
Good afternoon. I didn't expect to be here today, standing here with you as we kick off Holocaust Memorial Week. I expected to be on the other side of the country with my family. And yet, Hineni, here I am. Here we are. Once again, mourning a Jewish martyr. Once again, facing almost inconsolable grief. Once again, confronted by the kind of nihilistic violence that has plagued the Jewish people for thousands of years. And so we are devastated by the shooting that happened at the Chabad yesterday morning on Shabbat, on the day when we celebrate the end of Pesach. And we pray for the Kay family and for the families of all those who were wounded or traumatized by the attack. And we should make no mistake, this wasn't just an attack on that Chabad congregation, on Rabbi Goldstein's shul. This was an attack on all of us, as our sacred space was shattered. And I want to thank and reiterate what was said earlier, Sheriff Gore and everyone in San Diego law enforcement and all of the local leaders for their swift and determined response. I have seen this happen over the past 4 years in community after community. And rare do you have the kind of showing that I've seen here in the past 24 hours. So I heard the rule, but I'm sorry, I think we should applaud again the sheriff and the mayor and everyone here in San Diego County. It's really hard to believe that this happened 6 months to the day of the anniversary of the Tree of Life attack, the deadliest incident of anti-Semitism in American history. And this week, as we mourn, we also commemorate the lives of those lost in the Holocaust and Yom HaShoah. And in our tradition, when people die, of course, we say, may their memory be a blessing. And it's my hope that the memory of the 6 million martyrs who were slaughtered in the Shoah should be as a blessing, including my family, my paternal and maternal family. And I say that as a second generation. And we should add to that long list of Jewish martyrs, Lori, who died yesterday protecting her rabbi. May her memory not just be a blessing, but may her memory be a motivation for all of us today, now, here. Because this shooting is a reminder of the reality and the longevity and the virulence of anti-Semitism. It must serve as a call to action for us, not just as a Jewish community, but for all of society, to deal once and for all with this hate. Jewish people, and I say this with tremendous respect, to so many of you who are in this room as survivors. Jewish people, we should not fear for our person. We should not fear for our lives when walking into shul on a Saturday morning, when sending our children to preschool, when sending our grandparents to the senior center. I'm sorry, not in Europe, not in America, not in Pittsburgh, not in Poway, nowhere. And we can all consider what we can do to honor the memory of the victims. And I think in part, by saying a bracha and also by doing tikkun olam. Because from Charleston to Pittsburgh, from Oak Creek and Christchurch and Colombo and now here, we need to say, Dayenu, enough is enough. People in positions of authority, from elected officials to CEOs, need to stand united against hate and address it, not only after it happens. I have had enough with thoughts and prayers. I want them to enforce norms and values long before there's a crisis. And ordinary citizens, like all of us, need to lock arms and stand together to rebuild our shared society. And we collectively can work together to achieve this. We can advocate for legislation. We can be leaders in our own communities, standing up, speaking out, showing strength. And on the federal level, that means we need to shift our priorities to combat the rising threat of white supremacist violence. I'm sorry, but there is a through line from Charlottesville to Pittsburgh to Poway. And we need to articulate the issue in clear and simple terms. White supremacy is a terror threat. It is steeped in hate and violence. It respects no borders. It honors no faith. And anti-Semitism is at its core. Hatred of the Jewish people is at the root of this poisonous, toxic disease. And so our authorities need to bring the same level of energy and intensity to this fight that we brought against the fight against radical Islamist terror. I want the White House to call out this threat by name and fully engage the resources of the federal government to protect us, to protect you, my children, your children, our grandchildren, to devote the resources to analyze these domestic threats. And it's critical that they do this, because let me share something as the CEO of the ADL. We see white supremacist groups adopting the same tactics of radical Islamist organizations, from Hamas to Hezbollah, from ISIS to Al-Qaeda, connecting online through encrypted platforms that can't be penetrated, sharing manifestos through file sharing services, and radicalizing lone wolves like the young man who committed the crime just yesterday. And on the ground here in San Diego, we need to ensure that hate does not sprout and fester in our youth. Whether that's at a K-12 school or a university campus. They need to grow up hearing from public officials, whether you're the president of the United States or the president of a university or the president of the local school board, calling out hate when it happens, but like I said before, also reinforcing norms. This means calling anti-Semitism by its name whenever it happens, whether it's dressed up as anti-Zionism or some other PC explanation, whether it shows up in the form of a Nazi-style caricature on a Facebook page or the pages of the New York Times. Period. Full stop. Call it out now. And this also requires not just speaking out against anti-Semitism, but also all forms of hate, defending others and elevating our values like decency and diversity and equality and respect, the things that make this country great. We need to see these values articulated, like I said, by our elected officials, but also by our business leaders. And hear me out. It is long overdue for the CEOs of Silicon Valley, those titans of industry, to step up and prevent their platforms from being exploited by extremists. I am tired of it. I am tired of them hiding behind the First Amendment to claim we can't do anything as anti-Semites and bigots of all stripes have pushed out the poison on their services. We need those companies to use their innovation, to examine their algorithms, and to interrupt hate before it takes root. And if they can't do it, let me tell you, the congressman is here. We will demand that lawmakers step up and fill the gap and finally, once and for all, turn back the tide on this hate before it consumes all of us. And we need a zero tolerance policy on allowing intolerance on the public conversation. We need our leaders at the highest levels, whether you're in the White House or the House of Representatives, to stamp out hateful rhetoric when it happens, but don't give ground in the first place to people who traffic in prejudice. And as tempting as it might be to think the buck stops solely on one desk, that only one person is responsible for all of this, the problem is bigger than that. Make no mistake, this isn't about politics, it's about principles. And so to keep moving forward across the spectrum, all Americans, online and offline, and all responsible leaders need to step forward and quickly and clearly denounce hate. But I must say, the good news, my friends, is that people are good. I've seen folks from all walks of life standing with us, standing with the Jewish community as we stand with them. I felt it when civil rights leaders across the country texted me on my phone over the past 24 hours, expressing condolences and asking what they could do to help. I saw it in Pittsburgh, where I went after the massacre and paid Shiva calls and met with leaders, and I met the imam from the local Islamic center who told me about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he'd raised from the Muslim community to repair the Tree of Life. And days after Charlottesville, hundreds of mayors from across the country, Republicans and Democrats, red states and blue states, came together with ADL, and we created an alliance called the Mayor's Compact to stand against bigotry and hate. And I gotta tell you, I spent the morning in Poway, and I drove over here, literally just a few minutes ago. And I saw it at Twin Peaks and Pomerado Road, where there were dozens of people, Jews and Gentiles, holding signs, cheering, standing with our community. So we must value these gestures because it takes courage to stand up and reach out. And this is one of the enduring lessons of the Shoah. It may start with the Jews, but it never ends with the Jews. And so we need everyone to step forward. In this moment, mustering the courage is the charge for each and every one of us. I stand here today as the grandson of a refugee who survived the brutality of the Nazi regime in Germany. I stand here today as the husband of a political refugee from Iran who escaped the brutal totalitarianism of the Islamic Republic and its revolution. And I say to you today that we cannot take our privileges for granted, and we must be prepared to fight for our rights if we want to preserve them and pass them on to the next generation. And so we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, and we owe it to them, to those of you who are survivors in this room, we owe it to you to stand up for our values now, because we know how the story ends when good people stand down. We have seen the cost of silence. We, more than any other, have paid the price of others' passivity. And so at the ADL and for all of us, we will be vigilant and demand that our allies and friends be better, because the fight against anti-Semitism isn't just our fight, it's their fight too. And just the same, the fight against racism and misogyny and Islamophobia. As a proud Jew with so much privilege, these are my fights too. In this moment, we will be for ourselves, but we will also be there for others. And we don't ask to be held to a lower standard because we have suffered as refugees and victims and martyrs. In fact, we hold ourselves to a higher standard because of our experience with exile and dispossession and persecution. And so in closing, I also want to invoke the words of Rabbi Goldstein, who said, "We will not be intimidated or deterred by terror, whether at the hands of Nazis 70 years ago or Nazis in our midst today, or anyone else of any political persuasion or faith background who would malign and bring harm to the Jewish people. We are stronger than them. Our faith is our strength. Our legacy is our fortitude. And our weapon is our children and our grandchildren. We will not only survive, we will thrive. Am Yisrael Chai.
I'm good to go. Okay. Can everybody please rise? Okay, you say present the colors, right? Present.
Color guard. Hudson, Hut. Carry. Color.
Present the colors.
Ready. Cut. Forward. Part. Color guard. Halt. Left turn. Part. Color guard. Halt. Present. Color.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Carry. Color.
Retire the colors.
Ready. Cut. Forward. Part.
In commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the movie Schindler's List, honoring a righteous Gentile, we've been asked to play the theme music of Schindler's List. We're joined, my daughter Mila Wingard and I are joined today by two talented teenage musicians, Emily Chasen on flute and her younger sister Kate Chasen on cello. This is the younger generation that is going to have to take up the struggle to continue bringing beauty and love into our world to replace hate.
We have one very special candle we will light now before the traditional candle lighting in memory of the 6 million who perished, which will be later in the program. This candle is in memory of local survivors we have lost this last year. Their names are presented before you. May their memory be for a blessing. We will also have in mind Lori Kay as we light this candle. We will call up Sandra Sachs Scheller, who is lighting in memory of her beloved mother, Ruth Sachs. And we will also call up Sam Landau, who is lighting in memory of his beloved father, Max Landau. If you have a family member who was a Holocaust survivor who passed away within this last year, please also come up and join Sandy and Sam in lighting this candle.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is a very sad day for all of us, for what happened a couple of days in the synagogue. My name is Rose Schindler. I am the president of the New Life Club of San Diego. The New Life Club was formed in the 1950s with about 20 people and grew over to 100 Holocaust survivors within a few years. Today, we are lucky we have 25 people attend our monthly luncheons. I am so upset what happened at the Poway Synagogue. I can't believe this could have happened in my life, in San Diego, okay? It brings back terrible memories of the past. I think I'm back in Europe in 1939. This should not happen in America. In this country, everybody should feel protected and safe. Now more than ever, I worry about who will tell our stories after we are gone. The answer is right in front of me. It's you, second, third, and fourth generation. My hope, my request of you is to bravely tell your friends and colleagues about your experience. Excuse me, here. And fight for the rights of others, regardless of their religion, color, nationality, or sexual orientation. By doing so, you will not allow the lessons of the Holocaust to be forgotten, and you will help to make the world a safer place for all others. I want to thank the Jewish Community Center, the Jewish Federation, the Jewish Family Service for all they do for the Jewish community and its survivors. I especially want to thank Anti-Defamation League for their important efforts every minute of every day to protect Jews and others from another Kristallnacht. With this terrible demonstration by the Nazis, we need ADL more than ever. Our program now continues with the candle lighting ceremony to memorialize over 6 million Jews and millions of others who perished at the hands of the Nazis during World War II. Thank you very much for listening.
Hi, I'm Vera Laurel, Vice President of the New Life Camp and member of the Yom HaShoah Committee and Child Survivors of the Holocaust. This afternoon, we will begin lighting 7 special memorial candles. I will call up each candle lighters one at a time. Please come up to the table with your family members. Talia Shader, our Shamas and 3rd generation, will assist you in lighting the candles. The first 6 candles commemorate the 6 million Jews, our personal extended family members. 5 of them will be lit by local survivors, those who survived the concentration camp, ghettos, being hidden, and escaping to Russia. The first candle will be lit by Mike and Manya Wallenfels. Mike was born in Budapest, Hungary, and spent the war in the ghetto. Manya was born in Bosk, Poland. Manya and her family spent the war hiding in forest fields, cemeteries, and swamps. The second candle will be lit by Violet and Ben Garfunkel. Violet was forced into ghetto and later into a labor camp in Bulgaria. Ben was born in Warsaw. He and his mother fled and hid in a cellar underground until the war was over. I guess they couldn't make it. They couldn't make it, yes. The third candle will be lit by Herman and Edith Polak. Herman was born in Romania. He was interned in Auschwitz, worked in the railroads and Durnau, Germany. Herman was liberated from Bergen-Belsen. Edith was born in Germany and was hidden underground during the war in Alsace-Lorraine. Yes. Okay. The fourth candle. Okay. Yeah. The fourth candle will be lit by Maurice Schwartz. Maurice was born in Warsaw. He escaped the occupation and lived in Russia during the war.
The fifth candle will be lit by Vera Laurel. Vera was born in Budapest, Hungary. She was a 5-year-old when the Germans invaded Hungary. She was hidden and saved by the Red Cross. She is the lone survivor of her whole family. The sixth candle will be lit by the Yom HaShoah Commemoration Committee. Our committee works tirelessly to plan this program to remember, honor, and teach. The names of the committee members are located above on the screen. However, two of our members are not here today. One is Marsha Wollner, who is off to Poland and Israel with a group of local teenagers to take them on the March of the Living. And another is Alma Hadash Geiger, who presents the visuals and works tirelessly to make this program extra special. Thank you to my amazing committee.
The seventh candle is in honor of the righteous among the nations. It is important to remember the upstanders who risked their own life, save Jews. This candle will be lit by Martin Haas, who was Dutch Jewish child and saved by Dutch Christian family, and as well as Les Besser. Les' mother, Anna Besser, helped Jews to escape persecution by giving them her own identification papers and those of her deceased family. During the war final months, she hid two elderly Jewish men in her apartment, putting herself and her son, Les, at grave risk. Honor received the Righteous Among the Nations Award in 2015.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Bernstein. I am the Western Region Director of the American Society for Yad Vashem. I am here to represent my colleagues both in the United States and in Israel. And I thank Chairman Ostroff for her work, recognize the Consul General of the State of Israel from Los Angeles, Eitan Weiss, members of the survivor community and their families, the Deru family representatives, public officials from San Diego, City of San Diego and San Diego County, leadership and members of the Jewish Federation, and the Jewish Community Center. Please permit me for a moment to digress in making my comments about the Deru family and their designation as a family to be recognized among the righteous, to read to you a statement that came out of Jerusalem this morning from Director General, Chairman of the Directorate of Yad Vashem, Avner Shalev, who writes the following, and he asked that I read it to you. Yad Vashem is appalled and saddened at the shooting attack at the synagogue in Poway, California, yesterday. We express our deepest condolences to the family of Lori Gilbert Kay and stand united with all of the victims of this shooting and the entire San Diego Jewish community. Yad Vashem strongly condemns the actions of the anti-Semitic white supremacist at this house of worship as we approach Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is dedicated to commemorating the memory of the 6 million men, women, and children murdered for being Jewish. We shall gravely consider the dangers of unchecked anti-Semitism. We are also troubled by the various forms of incitement featured in the media, print, digital, and social. The world must act to combat such forms of hate speech by leaders and laypersons alike. Yad Vashem has been creating educational tools to counter the alarming phenomenon we see. In recent months, we have witnessed distressing resurgence of incidents of anti-Semitic attacks. On every continent, violence against Jews merely because they are Jews occurs. The time has come for world leaders to speak out and condemn anti-Semitism in all of its expressions and immediately implement legal, moral, educational measures, both protect the lives of their Jewish citizens and also to fight against the outbreak of anti-Semitism that we have witnessed lately. In our post-Holocaust global society, there is no room for anti-Semitism or any kind of racism or xenophobia. Located in Israel, Yad Vashem, the World Holocaust Remembrance Center, was created by an act of the Knesset in 1953 and remains the ultimate source for Holocaust education, commemoration, documentation, and research. I'm mindful that we are meeting here today just having celebrated the holiday of Passover. It is during this time that I, and perhaps you as well, reflect on the values we learn around the Seder table, namely freedom, justice, equality, and the obligation to heal a wounded world. When I read the story of Cornelius and Wilhelmina de Rue, hiding Jews, during a tragic period of human history, and doing so risking their own lives and those of their family, I realized that this family embodied the values that we learn at the Seder table. If Cornelius and Wilhelmina were alive today, I have no doubt they would feel an obligation to speak out and advocate for a world that is more tolerant, kinder, less dangerous than the one we find ourselves in today. Their story also made me think about the famous poem written by Martin Niemöller, a Protestant pastor who was thrown into a German concentration camp at the end of World War II. He said, "First they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." Once again, the story of the de Rue family and their acts of heroism reflects the spirit of this prophetic poem. The history of anti-Semitism has been characterized by some historians as the longest hatred, beginning in ancient Rome and Greece, through the Middle Ages, ages of Enlightenment, and into the fabric of the 19th, 20th, 21st century, Europe, the world, and clearly here, unfortunately, in the United States. I am so proud that Yad Vashem is doing its best to stem these tides and teach the world that cruel acts of anti-Semitism and violence will only lead to morally deficient societies where in the end, no one feels safe. One of Yad Vashem's principal duties is to remember the rescuers, to convey the gratitude of the State of Israel and the Jewish people to those non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust. Those who stand in stark contrast to the mainstream of indifference and hostility that prevailed. And in 1963, Yad Vashem embarked upon a project to grant the title of Righteous Among the Nations to the few who helped Jews in this darkest time of history. The Righteous title is awarded by a special commission headed by the Supreme Court justices only after research and careful consideration of each and every case. Today marks the beginning of the week of Holocaust remembrance, the day on which we pause to remember the Holocaust and the 6 million who were murdered. It is most fitting and proper that on these days we have gathered on this day to posthumously recognize Cornelius and Wilhelmina Deroux as righteous among the nations for rescuing a Jewish child, Mauritius Kaput, during the Holocaust by illegally and clandestinely taking him as their own. Cornelius and Wilhelmina Deroux, known as Kees and Mien, and their 7 children lived in Leiden, Holland. The family owned a grocery store and lived above their store. When the Germans invaded Holland in 1940, their youngest child, Herman, was almost 9 years old. We're honored that Herman is here with us today. Herman's sister, Will, was active in the resistance movement and asked her parents to hide a Jewish child. The Deroux were devout Calvinist Christians, prayed intensely for the end of what they saw as discrimination and hatred, and they agreed to take in the child. Min Deroux learned where she could find a Jewish baby to hide and brought her home to her young parents. This marked the beginning for the Deroux of hiding many Jews, often for short periods of time until they moved on to other safe places. But one of the people the Deroux hid stayed the longest, Marit Kopet, known as Maup. Maup was just a little older than Herman, and they became roommates, sleeping in the attic together along with Herman's brother Ari. Maup's hair was bleached so that he would blend in with the Deroux children, and Kees and Mien said he was a cousin, all the while respecting him as a Jew, even telling him the story of Hanukkah, making him a small menorah. During this time, the Gestapo suspected the Deroux family of illegal activities. One of their children escaped arrest, but Kees did not. After 3 days of interrogation, he was released. In May 1945, Holland was liberated. Maup, the only child, was reunited with his mother. His parents had been in hiding together in a small farm close by. Maup's father had passed away. Maup grew up and eventually became a journalist. He remained close to the Deroux family, bringing his children to meet them and including them in family celebrations. For decades, Maup had to suggest to the Deroux that they be recognized as righteous, but the Deroux were humble and modest as they were compassionate and courageous, and declined. They were, however, pleased to learn that Malp had planted a tree in their honor at Yad Vashem. Now, at long last, we are honored to show our gratitude and esteem to Cornelius and Wilhelmina Deroux, as today we recognize them among the righteous of the nations.
Wilhelmina and Cornelius Deroux were courageous people. Think of the courage it took for them to take in people, Jewish people, and hide them away during World War II, keeping those people away from the Nazis. It was a gamble that could have cost them their lives, but it paid off. And so they extended the lives, not only for themselves, but the others that they hid away. And so after all these years, Case and Mean, as they were known, are now going to be listed on the righteous among the nations, an honor that's reserved for people who helped save others during the war. Before this, maybe only their family and the family of those who they helped survive knew of their heroics. And that's where our connection comes in. My name is Nico Van Thyn. I live in Fort Worth, Texas, but for the first 8.5 years of my life, I lived in Amsterdam. And one of the people that the Deroux saved was Maurits Capote. He was my mother's first cousin, her favorite cousin. Before the war, my mother and her older sister Annie had 35 first cousins. Yes, it was a large family. After the war, after my mother in her early 20s survived the Holocaust, survived Auschwitz in a death march, she came back to Amsterdam. Annie did not survive, her sister did not survive, but Mom came back and she found that she had only one cousin left, Maurits Capote. He had come back to Amsterdam. Now, they were close for the rest of their lives, as you can imagine. And so even after we moved to the United States in late 1955, they stayed in touch always. Now, after we moved to the United States, Maurits became the editor of the Jewish newspaper in Amsterdam for over 2 decades. He was a very talented guy, very skilled writer and a prolific one and an opinionated one. He was also a very, very funny man. One of the great pleasures of my life was to go back to Amsterdam in 1991 after 36 years and see Maurits again. We had a great time with him. He was one of several that the Deroux helped save. And it was the Deroux granddaughters, Elena in California and Elena in Ghent, Belgium, who pushed this drive to have them listed among the righteous. And it was Elena in Belgium that did most of the work, most of the research. She contacted Maurits's kids, Philip, who lives in Jerusalem, and Helene, who lives in Antwerp, Belgium. Those kids are my second cousins once removed. I think I have that right. And they heartily endorsed the idea and wrote letters supporting it. Elena wrote a note to me and said, my Oma and Opa loved Maurits as their own child, and they took care of him. And anyway, we're proud that he is part of this and that the Deroux are now going to be listed among the righteous. I want to congratulate all the Deroux family, the descendants, and mostly I want to say thank you and bless you to Case and Mean. It was long overdue and well deserved. Thank you.
My name is Philip Capote, Uri ben Mordechai HaKohen, like my grandfather, who passed away on April 27, 1944 in Voorschoten, Holland. My father hurried from his place in hiding at the Deroux in Leiden to be with him, but didn't make it in time. I was born and grew up in Amsterdam and made my Aliyah in 1985. I live in Jerusalem. Married a lovely Tzabarit, that means Israeli born, by the name of Pua Schremer. We have 3 wonderful children, of whom 2 currently serve in Tzahal, the IDF. My sister and I are the children of Mao and Henny Kopuit, who both lived all their lives in Amsterdam, except for some horrible years in the 40s of last century. My mother was in hiding, was betrayed, and then taken with her mother and younger sister to the transit camp Westerbork in the northern part of Holland, and from there to Bergen-Belsen in Germany. My father was in hiding in Leiden and other places. After the war, he worked at the same newspaper where his father had worked and which had fired him just because he was a Jew. Mao became a very respected and well-known journalist, specialist on Israel and Dutch Jewish community. He was editor-in-chief of the influential Jewish weekly NIW and highly respected. He was honored as Knight in the Order of Oranje Nassau. My 1.5-year older sister Helene is named after our grandmother, Lena Kopuit. She married Jackie Borgenicht from Paris. They live in Antwerp. Their 4 children all made Aliyah. The 3 boys served in Tzahal. Our grandparents were not religious at all, but being Jewish was very important to them. During the war, a Christian couple came over to offer them to be Christianized in order to be saved from the Nazis, but they refused. They gave their only son Mao, aged 13, the same opportunity. He refused as well. Their motto was, "As Jews we live, and as Jews we'll die." As a young boy, our father was in hiding, separated from his parents. He stayed most of the time at the Darus, a very religious Christian family with 7 children. Mao was a year older than their youngest son, Herman, and was especially friends with Ari, who was hardly older than him. I do remember Ari very well. Together with his wife Tina, he took part at my bar mitzvah dinner. At the Darus, every meal started with a blessing and the reciting of a Bible verse from the New Testament. During my father's time at the Darus, they only read from Tanakh, the Old Testament. They didn't want to convert him, but to save him as a human being, as a Jew. During Hanukkah, they let my father light the candles. Kees and Mien de Rue were very special. They hided others because the lives of these people were in danger. They didn't try to convert them, to make them believe or religious. I don't know what their motives were. Apparently, they believed this was the right thing to do, even though it endangered them and their whole family. It doesn't surprise me that Min didn't see any need to be recognized as righteous among the nations, as suggested to her by my father, because she believed that what they did was just what they had to do. That makes Kees and Mien de Rue real righteous, righteous among the nations.
Willem.
I would like to recognize all the survivors who are with us today. I would also like to acknowledge the professional leadership of the Lawrence Family Jewish Community Center, the Jewish Federation of San Diego County, and all assembled elected officials, dignitaries, and religious leaders who are with us today. I also would like to recognize my good friend, Congressman Scott Peters, a true ally and a friend of the State of Israel and the Jewish people. Thank you, sir, for being here, showing your support. Before I will continue with the original program, I would like to add a few notes about what happened yesterday. The heinous attack, which took place yesterday at Poway, took us all by surprise. How can, after 70 years and the lessons of the Holocaust, we see monsters have these beliefs, these anti-Semitical beliefs? The contradiction is mind-boggling to me. We see these monsters doing the exact opposite of what we're commemorating today. They're putting their lives at risk to take the lives of innocent Jews. We're here, we're celebrating and commemorating those who risked their lives to save the lives of innocent Jews. When I first heard of what happened yesterday, I was here in San Diego on a personal vacation. We immediately went into war mode, as we call it, calling whoever we can, using whatever influence we have with elected officials, first responders, the sheriff, the mayor, Congressman Peters' office, to see and to learn what happened and how we can be of an assistance. I'm proud to say that the strong connections that we have with them really helped us understand and learn and try to implement and understand what we can do to keep the strong bonds between the State of Israel and the Jewish community living outside of Israel. I also bring with me a message from the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu contacted me and requested I'll relay the following message, that he's saddened and distressed of what happened yesterday, and he will do whatever in his power to help alleviate and prevent these events from ever happening again. Now, if I may, not all diplomats get the honor to pay tribute to those who the Jewish people hold most dear. Those who saved Jewish lives at the risk of their own during the Holocaust. The honor today is truly mine. To recognize Wilhelmina and Cornelius Deroux. Being a righteous amongst the nation is the most important decree that the State of Israel can offer. And the Deroux family definitely deserves it. Oh, I'm sorry. The extraordinary couple, exemplified as Philip said in his video, is the true meaning of righteous, what it's like to be a righteous amongst the nation. In the Jewish faith, we believe that if you have saved one life, it's like you have saved an entire universe, and they have helped save a lot of universes. Because of the bravery and unimaginable courage of the Deroux, we can see a universe of Jewish lives building the State of Israel, guaranteeing a safe house for the Jewish people around the world. And Israel is a strong country that we're all proud of. The Deroux will be forever enshrined for eternity in the hearts of the Jewish people and in the State of Israel with this recognition. So on behalf of the State of Israel, I would like to call up Herman Deroux, son of Wilhelmina, and Cornelius Deroux, to accept this medal of righteousness amongst the nation for the heroism of their parents. Please. Sir, as I said, it's with great honor that I give you this medal. Please open it and present it to the crowd so they can see. If I may, I would also like to read the certificate of honor so all of you will know what it says here. This is to certify that in its session of May 30th, 2018, the Commission for the Designation of Righteous established by Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Heroes and Martyrs Remembrance Authority, on the basis of evidence presented before it, has decided to honor Cornelius and Wilhelmina Deroux, who during the Holocaust period in Europe risked their lives to save persecuted Jews. The Commission therefore has accorded them the Medal of the Righteous amongst the nation. Their names shall be forever engraved on the honor wall in the Garden of the Righteous at Yad Vashem, Jerusalem. Thank you.
Please be seated.
Good afternoon. It is a great moment for our family, but today it is bittersweet because we still must stand strong against the horror of hatred. Our grandparents sacrificed against it decades ago. Others still sacrifice their lives today, as Lori Kay has.
I invite you to come home with me to Europe. And in Europe, you see the small country of the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands, Leiden, the place where it all took place and where Herman was born. Our grandparents, Cornelis and Wilhelmina Deroux, are heroes in our family. They selfishly risked their lives, shared their scarce resources, and endured great hardship for the sake of others.
Their great virtue is best revealed in their harboring of Jews during the Nazi occupation of Holland. My dad told us the stories many times over the years.
When their daughter Wil, our aunt, was 16 years old, she was very involved with the Dutch underground, risking death without a trial if caught. In 1942, Wil asked our grandparents if they would just hide one little Jewish baby. The whole household of 10 would be in jeopardy if the Nazis found out, but after earnest prayer, they agreed.
Our grandmother found it heartbreaking to separate parents from their baby, so she went to Amsterdam with a different plan. Meeting her in the street for the first time, with tears in their eyes, the mother and father proceeded to hand over their precious baby. But our grandmother said, "Come very close to me." As they did, she pulled out a small pair of scissors and secretly cut off the Star of David from their clothes. Then she handed them a pair of train tickets, which now they could use, with instructions to follow her from a distance. When they got off of the train in Leiden, they continued to the family store, following her again at a distance. Once all the customers had left the store, they secretly continued into the living quarters, and there they became the first to stay with them, this young family.
Then the Derues heard of a newlywed couple who had managed to escape the Nazis by hiding in a very big piece of luggage. Our grandmother again found them still hiding in the luggage, coaxed them out, and brought them also back home. After these, there were still more Jews to come and stay with them in their large house.
The underground moved Jews around as needed. After some left for other hiding places, our grandparents brought in a young boy who, at 12 years old, was about a year older than my dad. His name was Maurits, and he slept in the attic with my dad and his brother, which were the two youngest boys of the Drew family. Maurits' father had been hiding on a nearby farm. Sadly, he became very ill and died. The underground struggled with what to do with his body. Any funeral home would surely find out that he was a Jew, and this would prove dangerous. In desperation, the underground dug a hole in the yard and buried him there on the farm.
And because my grandparents had a grocery store, my grandmother could get peroxide. She bleached Maurits' hair and eyebrows and sent him to school. Our grandfather had a little push button in the store under the serving counter that would sound the buzzer upstairs where the Jews were lodging. Would Germans enter the store, he would sound the alarm. Those in hiding scrambled into a very deep closet with a false wooden partition. Once all were in, the last one would pull partition closed. It happened one night. If it happened at night, the boys and girls of the family moved from two sharing one bed to just one person per bed. They trained several times to see how quickly everyone could hide. A sympathetic neighbor pretended to be Gestapo and tested them late one night to see how fast they could do it. It took them 2 minutes.
It was only 2 nights later when they experienced the real thing. 6 Dutch Gestapo policemen rang the bell at 2 a.m. and banged on the front door of the store. 2 stayed outside, one at the front and one at the rear to make sure that no one escaped. All inside had been sound asleep. Our Uncle Dick was also hiding because he was wanted by the Germans for being Dutch military, for working with the underground, and also for dealing in the black market. Dick was the last one in the closet, but he could not get that partition closed. There remained a large gap. Sure enough, one of the policemen came to the closet and looked in. Trembling, Dick silently prayed Elisha's prayer, "Lord, please blind their eyes." In his memoirs, Dick says that 4 times the Gestapo looked in that closet, and 4 times the Lord blinded their eyes so that they did not see that gap. Angry for not finding any suspects, they arrested our grandfather.
The gravity of the situation drove our grandmother to demand that all the children get on their knees to pray, which they didn't usually do, for the safety of our grandfather. The Gestapo kept him 3 days. They interrogated him and threatened to kill him. He responded with, "Well, I am ready to die. Are you?" On the 3rd day, they let him go free.
Once a nosy, though friendly, customer asked our grandmother, "Is it true that you are hiding Jews in your house?" Our grandmother, unwilling to outright lie, replied, "Are you kidding? Do you think we would put our 7 children, my sister, and ourselves in jeopardy of being killed by the Germans just for hiding Jews?" That apparently satisfied the customer.
Sometimes my grandmother would take those in hiding and let them come out on the roof to get some fresh air. One day, a crowd became angry that a family store ran out of desperately needed flax oil. a Dutch Nazi sympathizer a few houses away, yelled, "You can't trust those people, for they are hiding Jews in their house. I saw them on their flat roof." This woman intended to say that for evil, but because he said that, many of the neighbors came to respect our grandparents. But of course, that day, all the Jews had to be evacuated. Some eventually came back to stay with them.
Our grandparents continued to hide Jews for the duration of the war. On May 5th, 1945, the Nazis capitulated and the Jews finally came out of hiding. Our grandfather had a deep love for Israel. He prayed daily for God's chosen people and for the peace of Jerusalem. I asked my dad, why did our grandparents risk their lives in this way? He said it was out of compassion for the innocent being wrongfully persecuted, and that as Christians, they trusted God's promise in Isaiah 26:3, which says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you."
Our grandparents have always been very modest of their heroic deeds. All the people hiding in their house made it through the war. The young newlyweds, hidden in the luggage, moved to Australia. We only knew their first names, Sonja and Lex. Some Jews had fake names out of fear. Maurits Kopuit was the one who used his real name, and we could locate his descendants. So 70 years afterwards, we can finally, my grandparents can finally receive the honor they deserve. The last surviving family member that lived through that experience is their youngest son, my oom Herman, my uncle Herman. He is there with his wife Ellie. They are here to accept the honor on their behalf. We could not be more proud.
We're honored to be joined by the Deru family today. You've heard from some. There are others here in the audience, close to, I believe, 40 members. If you guys could just kind of wave your hands up there. We are so honored for you to be here. They all have name tags on with the Deru family, and you are welcome to speak with them after today's program.
My name is Cantor William Type from Temple Solel. I'll be singing a song entitled One Generation, written by Cantor Benji Ellen Schiller. It illuminates the mystery of time and the passing of generations. The text comes from Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verses 4, 5, and 7. Isn't it strange to feel the passing of time? In a blink of an eye, we were here once before. Wasn't it yesterday we fashioned our lives on a dream, on a dream? One generation goes,
another comes, but the earth remains the same forever. The sun rises, the sun sets. The streams flow back into the sea, to the place from which they flow. The streams flow back again. So here we gather, like children once more, holding on to this moment for a lifetime. Timeless together in the memory we share of a dream, of a dream. One generation goes, another comes, but the earth remains the same forever. The sun rises, the sun sets. The streams flow back into the sea, to the place from which they flow. The streams flow back again.
I don't know about you, but I'm just going to take a moment. Maybe you'll join me. Just a deep breath. What we've witnessed here, I think, is truly remarkable and very special, and such an honor for our community to be with the Derus. My name is Stephen Schindler. I'm the son of Max Schindler of blessed memory and Rose Schindler, Holocaust survivors. It's a great pleasure and honor to introduce our keynote speaker. Heather Mayo Smith is a remarkable storyteller, an innovator, never one to settle on the status quo, and a wonderful friend. For many joining us today, and especially for the survivors, Heather needs no introduction. Nevertheless, please indulge me as I provide you with a glimpse of this amazing person. Heather worked tirelessly to collect, preserve, and share the stories of Holocaust survivors most of her professional life. Some of you may remember her first multimedia Holocaust exhibit, Davka, the storytelling of a people. It was first exhibited here at the JCC more than a dozen years ago. With Davka, Heather provided a window into the homes and lives of survivors and their families like the Rechts and the Leibovitzes, the Goldmans, and others. One of those families was mine. When we were interviewed for Davka, Heather set me on a pathway to explore the implications of my parents' horrific experience and how their survival influenced my life and continues to empower my view of the world. Davka propelled Heather onto the road, showcasing her Holocaust survivor exhibit to libraries throughout Southern California and nationally. Her invitation to present Davka at Yad Vashem was an auspicious beginning. Never being one to settle, Heather went on to advance groundbreaking technologies developed at the University of Southern California's Film Lab, first developed by James Cameron for his movie Avatar, winner of Best Cinematography and Special Effect Oscars. She had a vision to capture survivor testimonies in 3 dimensions and provide the public with opportunities to meet and interview survivors long after they're gone. Her dream is now a reality in what some of us know as New Dimensions in Testimony at the USC Shoah Foundation Institute. Heather's work has helped me to look inward and has encouraged my work to advance empathy building initiatives using stories of the past to inspire today's youth to say no to hate and to be upstanders. Today we honor the contributions of upstanders, the Derus, righteous among the nations, who at great risk saved the life of Moritz Koput and many others. Considering yesterday's tragedy in Poway and growing anti-Semitism and xenophobic actions of hate mongers worldwide, providing the public with opportunities to develop empathy, understanding, and respect through testimony is more urgent than ever. Heather's latest development is a new initiative called Storyfile that propels all that she's learned with Davka and New Dimensions in Testimony even further. New Dimensions in Testimony has advanced her reputation internationally as an innovator in bringing stories to life. Please join me in welcoming my great friend, Heather Mayo Smith.
Okay. Sorry, I have a lot to move. Technology's not easy. First, you say my husband Stephen Smith, some of you might know him. He's the executive director of the Shoah Foundation. And we would also like to send the Kay family and the entire Jewish community our deepest condolences and all our prayers for the people injured and those most affected by yesterday's horrific event. Thank you. As most of you know, I'm sorry, I'm going to read this, but as most of you know, I spent most of my life in San Diego. And as a parent and a board member of the San Diego Jewish Academy, along with my husband at the time, Lee Mayo, we remember, you know, a lot of security threats to Feretz Israel, the JCC, and we had a lot of town halls at the Jewish Academy at the time over the years. And I just wanted to say that I remember how we all decided collectively in the various different Jewish communities and synagogues and centers that we would do whatever we needed to do. But pulling our kids out of the Jewish Academy, or avoiding synagogue services, or not attending a community-wide event was never an option. We did start to have security guards, and as many of you know, it at great expense to the community, was important to do. We stood together then, throughout the years. We stood on Yom HaShoah more than ever. I know we'll continue to stand together, as Barbara pointed out earlier, to fight injustice, support one another, and all the institutions threatened by hatred, always. Thanks. Dafka. Many of you might not know. It's a word that means in spite of. And I first heard this word when Jackie Gamache was here today. And I ran into each other in the morning, very early in the morning, in the parking lot behind this very JCC, as we were arriving to set up for the Jewish Book Fair. So we had just completed a huge replica of the attic where Anne Frank's family had hid from the Nazis in Amsterdam. And I was exhausted, as usual. And Jackie, who, if many of you know her, has more energy than I think 35 or 40 at the time could have ever had. And she's walking towards me really quickly, yelling from about 20 feet away, "I know what we're gonna do for next year's exhibit." I looked at her and I laughed, probably just like that. She says, "I realized today that if my husband had not survived, I would never have met him. I would never have had, my children would not be here, and we wouldn't have these beautiful grandchildren that we have today. None of these families would be here if no one had survived and thrived," she said. Davka, she said again. It means in spite of in Hebrew. We have survived in spite of what happened, and we have thrived. And that will be the name of the exhibition. Steve Schindler last night reminded me of something that I said during the Dafka project, that we all felt really fortunate that we were able to communicate a generational continuity between the Holocaust survivors and their families, to show how strong these families have been and what they've been able to achieve in life. I had an amazing team, some of whom are here: Jackie Gamache, Naomi Levy, may she rest in peace, Debbie Sweet, Sonia Israel, who I know is here, Louis Venner, Jackie Phillips, Michelle Zausmer, and our amazing video crew. We all realized at the time that something very special was happening. It had nothing to do with what we were building. It was more about what we were experiencing with the survivors and their families, and the conversations we were having, the questions we were asking, and the answers we were listening to. These profound conversations were affecting all of us. We had all truly felt blessed to have had the opportunity to listen. There's nothing, what ended up in Dafka, the Dafka video exhibit actually was nothing, and trust me, nothing compared to the hours we had spent with these survivors filming them and their families. And I know some of you have spent many hours talking to survivors as well. Some of them may be your family members. And you may feel you know a lot about their experience. But what we found was that in each one of our interviews, family members were hearing things for the first time. They were hearing stories they had never heard, and they were realizing things about their parents' experiences that they have never realized before. That part of a true emotional connection was a story, not necessarily, that part of the true emotional connection with the story was not necessarily in listening to the story, but in the questions, in the conversation that happened after the story was told. And what I realized scared me. After all the stories and all the conversations we had had, the deeply touching, life-changing moments, I had realized that as yet, my unborn grandchildren would never have the same opportunity. They would never get to learn about the resilience, the hope, life itself, and the true will of the human spirit, as I had. Sorry. I know that a lot of you survivors speak in the public, and I know a lot of you wonder daily why you put yourself through that. And I can honestly say that you made a difference in so many lives. And thank you. I once said to Rose, I said, I never absolutely 100% knew that I would never survive what she went through. And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, you never know. I'm talking about you. Not because we didn't, nope, I lost my place. Why? Because these special human beings would not be with us forever to answer those questions or to have those conversations. And that scared me. Not because we didn't have thousands of audiovisual recordings of their lives, of what they experienced in the Holocaust, mostly thanks to the Shoah Foundation. Not because we didn't have thousands of survivor autobiographies, and not because we don't have good films like Schindler's List and countless documentaries about the Holocaust. Not because we don't have amazing detailed books that have been written about the Holocaust, but because we do, thank God. But because the survivors will not be able to answer those questions coming from seeing that interview or reading that book or seeing that movie ever again. Or so we thought. I began to wonder what it would be like to replicate the experience of a Q&A with a Holocaust survivor. I knew that museums for years had produced Q&As where the public could choose the question they would like the person to answer, and then they clicked on it and the person would answer the question. But it wasn't entirely the experience I wanted to create. I wanted you to feel as if you were in a room with a survivor, just the two of you, just sitting there at a kitchen table, having a conversation about anything you wanted to know about their lives, just as I had been honored to be able to do countless times. I was learning about new ways to visualize a person, developments in natural language processing, big data search capabilities, speech recognition, et cetera, and what was on the horizon. And I thought to myself, what if? So I went to the USC Shoah Foundation, and we partnered with another, what happened to be a USC institute, the Institute for Creative Technologies. And what I'm going to show you was the solution that we came up with. Hello. maybe. She's been sitting here waiting for you for a while, so. Hello. What? It's not that mic. Hello. Audio. Say hello, Rose. Hello. I am going to defer to someone. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's see what she answers here.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm going to go down a different route. How do you feel about racism in the world today?
It's a terrible thing. Nobody can gain anything by being racist. And you know, when I speak at schools all the time, I speak a lot at schools and tell them my story. I tell the kids, don't let anybody bully you. Don't let them get away with stuff like that, because once they get away with one, they're going to do it again and again. So you have to stop them. Tell your principal that these people are what they're doing. And I think it works. I mean, I was bullied plenty when I was a young kid, okay? So don't let them get away with it.
So the little pauses and the stops or the stuttering doesn't normally happen. Usually we have a dedicated Ethernet hookup. I happen to be on Wi-Fi in this big room with all of you, so it's going to be a little bit tenuous. I think that we have some questions from the audience. That there were a couple girls that had questions. Yes? You want to come up?
How did you survive?
By not giving up. That's how I survive. By not giving up hope. And hoping every day that tomorrow is going to be better. Okay? Conditions we were in, they were very hard, but people died like flies, committed suicide. So, I mean, people in Auschwitz, they would just put their hand on the electric wire. Within 20 seconds later, they were dead. They just couldn't handle it. I was not ready to give up all that, okay? And my father, he said, whatever you do, survive the war, okay? So you can tell the world what they're doing to us. That stayed in my mind all my life. His last words he said to me.
Just one more question.
How did you rebuild your life after the Holocaust?
Well, I was in the Holocaust. I lost my whole family. They just didn't disappear in the air. And I know what happened to them. I was there.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. She didn't quite get your answer, but one of the issues you kind of have to make sure that it gets the entire question. And if any of you use Siri on your phones, it's very similar to that. Thank you so much. Thank you. I just wanted to let you all know from my part, I'll continue to find ways for all of us to share our stories because everyone, and I mean it, everyone has a story to tell that should be shared and remembered for all humanity to be able to listen and learn from and about each other. That's my next challenge, so wish me luck. And I wanted to thank you, and please, please, never lose faith in humanity. Never stop being vigilant about fighting evil, and please listen. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Jesser. I'm the CEO of the Jewish Federation of San Diego County. For years, the Jewish Federation has been proud to be part of leading this community-wide effort to commemorate the Holocaust, the Shoah. But 5 months ago, when we began planning this year's day, we could never have imagined just how meaningful it would become. The coincidence of timing is not lost on any of us as we struggle with our fears, as a community here in San Diego and as a Jewish people. For Jews, the question of coincidence is also a question of faith. As 6 million Jews were marched to their death during one of the darkest moments in Jewish history, that faith was tested. And in these days of rising attacks against religious, racial minorities, including Jews, we are being tested again. Yesterday's murder and assault on the Chabad community in Poway was an attack on all of us. So what can we do in such a moment when thoughts and prayers seem less than adequate? Can't we be just angry? Can't we just crumble and cry in the arms of our loved ones? I say no. Our response must be clear and unwavering. We will not be stopped by fear or despair or hatred. And in honor of Lori, we will not stop. In honor of the victims injured and affected by yesterday's act of hate and anti-Semitism, we will never stop. Exactly 6 months ago, the world was shocked by the massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. And since then, incidents against other worshipers, as you've heard tonight, paint a picture of a world on fire. Last week, we might have said San Diego is the last place that such hate exists. And yet today we know none of us are immune or sheltered from hate. I share with all of you today as a Federation CEO, as a leader in the Jewish community, but also as a man, a father, a husband, and a son who is hurting. I know many of us are hurting, and I want you to know we were not alone. Literally hundreds of colleagues around the country and leaders around the world have sent condolences throughout the last 24 hours. I'm overwhelmed by the compassion and love we have felt from friends everywhere. We are inspired by the fortitude and strength of our partners here in San Diego, who no doubt will come together in the coming days, weeks, and months to care for our community. We're proud of the community. We're proud to have an anti-defamation league that works closely with local law enforcement. We're proud to have a Jewish family service already on the ground providing trauma services. We're proud to have a Jewish community center to partner with us and host events like this, and many, many other partners in the community. I know many congregations and clergy are available to support all those who are afraid, those who are struggling. And I'm proud that the Federation will continue to do its part, as it has for a century, to try its best to help bring the community together to heal. Commemorating the Shoah is personal for me. I've shared with some people who are in the room, my grandfather was the youngest of 28 children. His father, my great-grandfather, was married twice, and with each wife he had 14 children. My grandfather was the youngest. Yeah, I'm not kidding. This is true. Most of that family never made it out of Eastern Europe. Some did. My grandfather and 6 of his siblings. I now have an extended family. We had a reunion about 15 years ago with over 400 people. So when I think of the Shoah, I think of an event that changed the course of history for the Jewish people, reminds us of what happens when the community or when the world is silent in the face of atrocity, in the face of madness, in the face of evil. So this is personal for me, and I'm really grateful to everybody for being here to commemorate this event. People keep asking, what can we do? We have this event so that we decrease the likelihood that something like the Shoah would ever happen again, and yet again and again, events happen in the world that cause fear. So people ask, what can they do today? A couple things. While the details are still being worked on, a couple things you should know about. Tonight, there's going to be a what Chabad called a grassroots memorial service in Poway. It's going to happen in memory of Lori Kay at 7 p.m. at Valle Verde Park in Poway. People should know tomorrow at 2 p.m. there's going to be funeral services with dignitaries followed by a graveside service, which will be at 4 p.m. El Camino Memorial Park. Rabbi Fradkin from Chabad wanted me to share Lori was a native San Diegan and a true woman of valor. And while the details are still being worked out, we expect that there will be a large community-wide vigil tomorrow night at 6:30. Location will be in Poway. Information is still forthcoming, so check with either the Federation website, jewishinsandiego.org, or any organization that you're affiliated with. That information will be coming out soon. I stand before you today as a champion for a strong Jewish future. Today, we remember the Shoah. We can pray for and hope that the families of those who suffer will find some peace. To support those in need today, Chabad, I'm aware, has already established a GoFundMe account. And the Jewish Federation, in collaboration with the Jewish Community Foundation, will be setting up a fund to support immediate as well as short-term and long-term needs in the community. So again, look out for more information on our website and throughout the community and the organizations you are a part of. May all those grieving today be comforted among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Thank you for being here.
Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst am letzten Weg, wenn Himmel bleien, verstelle bleie Tag. Willkommen wird durch unser ausgebänkte Schau. So wird Parkt und unser Trott mehr seine da. Willkommen wird durch unser ausgebänkte Schau. So wird Parkt und unser Trott mehr seine da. Von grünen Palmenland bis weiten Land vor Schnee. Wir seien da mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh. Und wo Gefall ist der Sprotz von unser Blut, wird noch gespratzt wird geworden unser Mut. Du sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst am letzten Weg, wenn Himmel bleien, verstelle bleie Tag. Willkommen wird durch unser ausgebänkte Schau. So wird Parkt und unser Trott mehr seine da. Von grünen Palmenland bis weiten Land vor Schnee. Wir seien da mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh. Und wo Gefall ist der Sprotz von unser Blut, wird noch gesprotzt und unser geworden unser Mut. Und wo Gefall ist der Sprotz von unser Blut, wird noch gesprotzt und unser geworden unser Mut. Es wird dem Morgens und begilden uns dem Heind. Der schwarze Nacht wird verschwinden mit der Heind. Und versammelt wird die Sonne in dem Kajor. Wie a Parol so gehen das Lied vom da zu da. Und neu versammelt wird die Sonne in dem Kajor. Wie a Parol so geht das Lied vom da zu da. Geschrieben ist das Lied von Blut und nicht von Blei. Zet het der Volk von unser Spiegel auf der Frei. Na sollt der Volk zwischen fallen dicke Wände. Das Lied gesungen in Naganen in der Hand. Na sollt der Volk zwischen fallen dicke Wände. Das Lied gesungen mit Naganen in der Hand. Der Pfarr sagt keinmal, als der Geist am letzten Weg. Wenn Himmel bleien, verstill bleie Tag. Willkommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau. So wird der Parkt und unser Trott mehr seinen da.
My name is Josh Dorsch. I'm the rabbi of Tiferet Israel Synagogue in San Diego. And I want to thank everybody for being here this afternoon. I'm really humbled to be here in present company, and I'm honored to be leading us in some brief prayer reflections for this commemoration today. And I'd like to invite everybody to please turn to page 8 in our handout, in our pamphlet. And we'll read together in the English, Esainai El Harim, Psalm 121. Once again, we're on page 8 in our handout. A song for the ascents. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Adonai will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm and guard your life. Adonai guards you going and coming, now and forever. And we'll sing together on the second half of the page, bottom of page 8, Esainai. Please join me. Esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Hashem oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Hashem oseh shamayim va'aretz. We'll now continue on page 9 in our handout. It's my honor to invite up Judy Godchak, who will lead us responsively in We Remember the Holocaust in memory of her parents, Holocaust survivors, Barak and Agatha.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Rabbi Dorsch. And we will do this, what do you call it?
Responsively.
Responsively. Okay. We recall with bitter grief the catastrophe which overwhelmed our people in Europe, adding an unprecedented chapter to our history of suffering. We mourn for 6 million of our people brutally destroyed by civilized people behaving like savages. The cruelties of Pharaoh, Haman, Nebuchadnezzar, and Titus cannot be compared with the diabolical schemes of the modern tyrants who sought to exterminate an entire people.
The blood of the innocents who perished in the gas chambers of Auschwitz.
Bergen-Belsen, Buchenwald, Dachau, Treblinka, and Theresienstadt cries out to God and humanity. We will never forget the burning of the synagogues and the houses of study, the destruction of holy books and scrolls of Torah, the sadistic torment and murder of scholars, sages, and teachers. They tortured the flesh of our brothers and sisters, but they could not crush their spirit, their faith, and their love. We recall the heroism of those who, in the face of unprecedented and overwhelming force, maintained Jewish life and culture and asserted Jewish values in the very midst of enslavement and degradation. Even as we mourn, we recall all those precious few compassionate men and women of other faiths and nationalities who, at the peril of their lives, saved some of our people. They're here today. Of such individuals did our sages teach. The righteous of all nations have a share in the world to come. Together, O Lord, remember your martyred children. Remember all who have given their lives for the sanctification of your name.
We'll now continue on page 10. Yizkor Elohim nishmot kol achenu ve'achotenu b'nei Yisrael shemasru et nafshotehem al kiddush Hashem. Ana tiyena nafshotehem srurot b'tzror ha'chaim utehi menuchatam kavod. Sevas machot et panecha Ne'imot biminecha netzach v'nomar Amen. May God remember forever our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel who gave their lives for the sanctification of the divine name. May they be at one with the one who is life eternal. May the beauty of their lives shine forevermore. May my life always bring honor to their memory. And let us say, Amen.
El mole rachamim shoichein Elohein Bameroimim Ha'amitzei Menucha Nechoino Tachase Kanefei Hashechino B'ma'alos Kedoshim Utehoirim Kezoyar Oroki Amazirim Eshni Shemois Acheinu B'nei Yisrael Shenergo V'shenishchato V'shenishrfo Chayim Al Yedei Harotzchim HaGermanim Yemach Shemom V'zichrom Ba'avur she'anachnu Noidvim tzedoko V'ad hazikoros Nishmo Yisrael Beganei Dentim Nuchosom Lochein Balo Rachamim Yastireim B'Seiser Kenofov Leyo Elomim V'Yitzeroi V'Yitzeroi Rachayim Es Nishmo Yisayim Adinoyu Nachalosom V'Sanuchom V'Shalom Al Mishkevo Yisayim V'Noyamar Amen.
You may be seated.
Eli, Eli, lama azabtoni. Eli, Eli, lama azabtoni. In Feuer und Flamm hat man uns gebrennt, gemacht von uns zu Schand und Spott. Nur abwenden von dir hat keiner nicht gekannt. Von dir, mein Gott, und dein heiliger Teure und dein Gebot. Eli, Eli, lama azabtoni. Eli, Eli, lama azabtoni. Jede Nacht, nur ich tracht von dir, mein Gott. Ich halt in Meure aus dein Teure, deine 10 Gebot. Rette mich, oh rette mich von Gefahr, wie die Ovols amol von dem Besen gesar. Herr, mein Gebet und mein Gewinn, helfen kannst du,
du nor allein. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Next year, Yad Yirtzushem.
Shalom. Stand up, please, for, oh, sorry, for the Kaddish, yeah. I'm sorry, thank you. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. בעלמא דברי ברותי, וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ובימיכון, בחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קרים, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם על מיה יתברך, וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדל, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי תקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירם בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, חיים עלינו וכל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. Have a seat, please. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a moment, we're going to conclude with Hatikva. There will be a reception outside afterwards. We encourage you to visit the Holocaust Memorial Garden. Thank you. This concludes today's commemoration. For all of our survivors in the room, we will be taking our annual photo. Thank you, and please join us outside.